to telling you the Bible story today. Once again, the Bible is God's truth. Every word in the Bible is true. We are no longer in the book of Genesis. We are moving to the book of Exodus, which is the second book in the Old Testament. We're going to be talking about a man named Moses. You may have heard of Moses, but it's in the book of Exodus, and let's start his story now. The children of Israel, all of God's people who are descendants from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Esau and Rebekah and the people that we've talked about, they've lived in the country of Egypt for over 400 years, and they've become slaves to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is not a very nice man. We'll learn more about him next time. But they are slaves, and they have to work hard, and the Egyptians do not treat them very well. King Pharaoh is actually concerned that there are so many Israelites, and he makes a command that I want all of the baby boys to be killed the day they're born. But thankfully, not everybody obeyed King Pharaoh. They trusted in God. So there's a family. Amram and Jochebed are the mom and dad, and Miriam is a sister, and Aaron is a brother, and they have a baby named Moses. And so they try to hide Moses so that no one comes to kill him or take him away from their family. It's hard to hide a baby because, as you probably know, babies can get really loud and they can cry really loud. So as Moses got bigger, it was harder to keep him quiet and to keep him still. So they come up with a new plan when he's about 3 months old. They decide, we're going to make a basket, and they make sure it's covered in tar so it'll float, and put him in the Nile River near the bulrushes to kind of keep him safe, and trust God to take care of Moses. So Miriam, the older sister, is commanded to watch him, and they take Moses and they put him in the water. And let me tell you what God did. He sent, and I think maybe they knew this, but this is part of God's plan, Pharaoh's daughter and the people that came with her to play in the water, to bathe in the water, to wash clothes, to do the things that they needed to do. And all of a sudden Moses starts crying, and Pharaoh's daughter says, I think I hear a baby, please bring him to me. So he's brought to her, and she falls in love with Moses right away. So Miriam comes out and said, are you going to keep the baby? And she says, yes, I think I'm going to. This is one of those Hebrew babies, but I want to keep him. And she said, I know somebody who would come and help take care of that baby and nurse that baby so he doesn't go hungry. And she brings her mother, Jochebed. So God had this plan to save Moses. Moses grows up living in the palace and being part of Pharaoh's family, but he also always knows that he's an Israelite, that he's a Hebrew, that he's one of God's chosen people, and that his relatives were slaves. So he grows up, and he gets older, and he becomes a man, and he watches the Egyptian people mistreating the Hebrew people. And one day he just couldn't stand it, and he took the Egyptian man and he killed him so that the Israelite man could live. He hides his body, he thinks it's all hidden, and then the next day he walks up and he finds that there are two Israelite men who are fighting against each other, and he said, wait a second, what are you doing? Stop this. You all are brothers. You need to come together. You need to get along. And they looked at him and they said, who do you think you are? Are you going to kill one of us just like you killed that Egyptian yesterday? And he realizes, I've been discovered. When Pharaoh hears about it, he'll try to kill me. So Moses has to run away. He has to escape. And he goes far away to a country called Midian, a land of Midian. It's out in the desert. And he meets a family there, and he meets a lady named Zipporah. And he marries her. He has a great father-in-law who had two different names, Jethro or Reuel. So he becomes a shepherd, like Zipporah's family have been, and he takes care of sheep. So for 40 years, he was a prince of Egypt. And then for 40 years, he's going to be a shepherd and taking care of sheep. That's a huge difference. But God is still with him and taking care of him and working his big plan. So one day, as a shepherd, Moses sees something he has never seen before. He sees a bush, but rather than starting a big fire or burning up, it just keeps burning. The fire just keeps going. And he walks up to the bush because he's not seen anything like this. And he hears a voice. Take off your shoes. You're standing on holy ground. So Moses obeys, and he realizes God is talking to him. And God tells him, I have seen my people suffer. I know they've been slaves for a long time, and I am going to set them free. I'm going to rescue them. I've heard their cries, and I'm going to take care of them. And he said, Moses, I want you to be the one who goes back and tells Pharaoh to let my people go. That enough is enough, and we're done. Sadly, Moses doesn't respond the way we talked about Abraham did. Yes, sir, immediately, whatever God said, he starts making excuses to God about maybe why he's not the perfect one to go back and see King Pharaoh. And I hope you don't ever do that. Sometimes I do that with God. I make some excuses, or I'll say, oh God, you really don't want me to do that, or that's too hard. Please don't ask me to. But when God says to do something, we have to do it. But let me tell you what Moses said. This is, once again, from the Bible, the book of Exodus. He said, who am I that I'm the one who should go back to talk to King Pharaoh? Pharaoh's not going to listen to me, is basically what he's saying. And God said, yes, he will, because I'm going with you. He will listen. And then Moses says, well, how do I even tell Pharaoh who you are? And he says, tell him my name is I am. Because God's the only one who can say that. He is. He is everything. There's no other, we can't even explain or describe God. But God said, tell him I am. There's no other. So then Moses comes up with a third excuse. And he says, nobody's going to believe me. Nobody's going to listen to me. Who am I? Nobody's going to listen to me. And God says, yes, they will, because I'm going with you. And then it gets even better. This makes me laugh. Moses says, you know what? I don't even talk very well. My speech is slow, and people can't always understand me. And I'm not going to say it with the right way. I don't have enough words. And God said, remember, I'm going to be with you. And I will send someone to help you talk. Remember, you have a brother, Aaron. Aaron's a really good talker. Don't you remember that growing up? He's great at that. So he will go with you. You're not going to be going alone. That's really important. We'll talk about that again in a minute. And then finally, Moses has run out of excuses, and he says, oh, God, do you have to send me? Can't you just send someone else? He does not want to do what God is asking him to do, because it's going to be really, really hard. But when God asks us to do something, we have to say yes. So God says, Aaron is on his way to meet you. He's going to go with you. You will not be alone. And I wanted you to take my message to King Pharaoh and to encourage the Israelites, because I am going to set my people free. So I want you to remember, you're never alone, because God is always with you. When he asks you to do something, you are never alone. God is always there helping you, even when you think you don't have the power to do it. The good thing is, God not only told him the things to say, he's going to give him miracles, which are amazing miracles to show what only God can do. That's what a miracle is, things that only God can do. So I'll look forward to talking more about Moses with you next time.